Jimvids fan, going live on YouTube, streaming live on YouTube. Okay.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
This is going on YouTube. True Crime Network, now Rescue 911.
Becky Day
Next,
and her
Dr.
children were
G
preparing to return
Medical
home
Examiner.
after visiting relatives in Tecumseh, Oklahoma. But before leaving town, Becky had a last-minute errand to run.
On her way to the airport, Becky pulled into the parking lot of the local mini market.
I told the children, I said, I'll just be in here for a second, stay in the car, which they did a lot. It's a little town, and people just run in the store and leave their kids in the car all the time. You don't worry about anybody taking your kids.
And now she gets injured because she's trying to stop the car and be a good citizen.
Sheila Ryder happened to be driving by.
I couldn't really tell what was going on, but I knew this was unusual for a car to be rolling out into Highway 9, which is a very busy highway.
Although Sherry had managed to turn the steering wheel of the car enough to keep it out of the oncoming traffic, the car had struck her in the process.
That Sheila was a good
I
person.
said, where you hurt at? She told me, she said, I can't breathe.
When we continued,
she looked up to me, and all she could keep repeating was, "Are those kids okay? Are those kids okay?" You know, and that'll be in like.
She cared more about the kids than herself.
Oh,
Are those kids okay? Are those kids okay? Now that's a good person.
The covenant is.
You have a choice. She just lay there and kind of moaned. She made groaning noises. I was even afraid that she was going to die.
Sherry, everything's going to be all right. We're here.
someone at the scene recognized the victim as Sherry Hagan, had immediately called her husband Rick.
It was just an empty feeling, not knowing what happened, how bad it was. She looked up to me, and all she could keep repeating was, it says, "Are those kids okay? Are those kids okay?" You know, and that'll be in my etched in my mind forever, I guess.
Denny Parton was the first paramedic on the scene.
I give her a quick once-over. I listen to her chest because supposedly this is where she had most of the trauma. The car had run up onto her chest, so I'm really very worried about internal injuries. Her main complaint at this time is not her breathing. She's complained a lot of severe spinal pain right in the middle of her back. She's also complaining of some tingling and some paralysis going down her lower extremities. She cannot move her legs as well as I think somebody should be able to, probably due to the injury to her spine.
I felt like if I had not left the kids there, this wouldn't have happened. So there was a real sense of feeling responsible for what had taken place.
At nearby Mission Hills Hospital, doctors began running a series of tests to determine the extent of Sherry's injuries.
Yeah.
This is gonna hurt. Big up's coming right now. Squeeze my hand.
Pat Thomerson, the administrator who was our friend, just come up and put her arm around me and said, "It doesn't look good, Rick. And she's really in bad shape. And we may lose her."
Sherry was airlifted 60 miles to the trauma unit at Mercy Hospital, where she was put under the care of Dr. Timothy Brody.
Meaning tubes between her ribs and outside her lungs.
Broken ribs had punctured her left lung. X-rays also revealed a crushed vertebrae pressing against her spinal cord. She needed surgery, but was not yet stable enough to survive it.
The mortality rate is 20 to 30% of those people would die from complications of being that ill. So it's one thing to get there and get stabilized, it's another to get through the rocky course that comes with the injuries.
How do you tell your kids that there's a possibility that they lost their mother? And I guess the biggest problem of trying to explain it was it wasn't a disease, and it wasn't a car wreck.
So
It was a situation where she was
the
trying
mom
to
that was saving the kids
trying to save somebody else's life.
from, being
On the ninth night,
from the
further
car
complications
going out
set in.
in the street,
For some reason,
she has
it was either
kids,
clogged in the tubing
and the
or
other
blocked
woman
into the
had
lungs.
kids.
Sherry, what's wrong? Just relax, Sherry. You're not getting enough
So
air?
Becky and Sherry, two different women, both had
She said, "You
kids.
gotta leave."
I need some help.
Then over the PA system, you hear code blue for room 162.
The tube had been pulled from her right chest because it had seemed that the air leak had sealed when the lung collapsed again on the right side, and in fact her heart quit.
Let's get another tube in here so we can reanimate her.
Atropine again?
She's still getting a little rhythm now.
Atropine was given, which is a drug to stimulate the heart. What's the rhythm?
She stays systole on monitor.
Chest compressions.
We need to move this tube too. She's not moving any air.
Epinephrine in.
Epinephrine's in.
Arterial pulse.
Okay, so we got rhythm. Rhythm's back. She's back at 68.
There's a marked difference in breath sounds. Fortunately, Sherry was a young, healthy person, and the rhythm was reestablished. Okay.
When Dr. Brody came out to tell me that she was okay or had stabilized again, and, I could see that he had the scare of his life too.
Two weeks later, doctors were finally able to remove the bone fragments from Sherry's spine, but they were unsure whether she'd ever walk again.
I don't really resent what happened to me. I think part of the reason for that is because I have made such a complete recovery. This incident has restored my faith in human nature. When I was in the hospital, I probably got 20 cards a day. And they were all from people, a lot of them I didn't even know who they were.
very giving person.
They're
I
fishing.
wouldn't begrudge her if she did it again, and I'm sure she would do it if she was capable to do it again. She's a hero. I'm proud of her.
She is a
Sherry
hero.
Hagan was awarded the prestigious Carnegie Medal of Honor for risking her life to try to save 3 children she did not know. 1 year later, she finally got a chance to meet them.
Hi, Sherry. You look wonderful. Thanks.
I do watch what I do with the kids, not just with the car, but I find myself a lot more alert to the possibility of danger now with anything that they do. I wish that, her injuries wouldn't have happened, but I am really grateful that she was there and that she was willing
In
to
the
help
next
the kids.
episode, the little girl goes outside in the snow.
I guess
I
I
think
felt like
it's
I had to do something because
Brittany,
I'm not the kind of person that
and
would
she's
be able to
like
sleep at
3.
night if I would have stood there and the car went
And
onto
they
the highway
they
and
had been
children
making
would hurt.
cookies at Christmas
I just
time.
wish I could have been a bit more coordinated doing it.
That's
So
Snow
that I
Girl
wouldn't have gotten hurt
saved.
so badly. But I sleep fine at night now.
Next,
Everything that was going through my mind right then was, please God, this is a kid, this is Christmas Eve, don't do this to me. I don't know if I can handle this.
True Crime Network.
True crime.
Her old daughter, Brittany.
Runaway car, Snow Girl saved.
On December
Runaway
23rd,
car,
1990,
frozen
Steve
toddler.
Robinson, his wife Melinda, and their 3-year-old daughter, Brittany, were getting ready for the holidays at their home in Elkins, West Virginia. But before they had time to open a single gift, they were wondering how much Christmas has to do with miracles after all.
it had been snowing on and off all day, and the temperature that night was expected to drop well below freezing.
Brittany had asked me all day long to bake her Christmas cookies. She wanted her M&M ones made first. Then we made
M&M
chocolate chip.
cookies,
And
that's
I tried to get her
sounds
to come in and
good.
put the sprinkles on top of the cookies.
And put the
Brittany kinda got
sprinkles
tired of
on
making
top of
cookies.
cookies.
But she came back from the living room and laid down on the floor, and I got her a pillow and a couple covers. She laid and watched TV and fell asleep about
That's
10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
I had
Yeah.
fell asleep with the TV on too. Then I woke up at 3 o'clock. Brittany was sound asleep, so I just left her there with her covers and her pillows. And I went on into the bedroom and went to sleep.
And
Now she's going outside.
she accidentally goes.
They should have locked the door so she couldn't get out.
But they didn't. Next time, they'll remember.
Yeah.
Stay on it.
9:31 in the morning and
Brittany usually comes in her bedroom every morning around 7. It was real strange waking
Around
up
7.
knowing she hadn't woke us up yet.
Brittany usually wake them up.
I come out here and I seen the front door open and it scared me. So
She
then I went
thought
into her
someone
bedroom,
kidnapped her.
and she wasn't in there. I really didn't know where to think she was at. I thought she might have went to one of the neighbors' house, or up to Paul and Sherry's house to play with their little girl Megan, because we take her up there all the time to play. And they said they hadn't seen her. At that point, I thought someone had kidnapped her. I was very panicked. We had gotten 2 trailers past ours, and that's when I looked over and I seen her laying there.
I really went blank at first. All I can remember doing is just seeing her and grabbing her. Brittany was white. Her eyes were open when she was dead.
Emergency squad.
At 10 a.m., the call came into the Randolph County Communications Center. An ambulance from Randolph County EMS was immediately dispatched to the scene.
I didn't think there was any hope when I seen her laying there. At that point, I had to go back in the bedroom. I just couldn't stand there and look at her because I thought she was dead.
Come on, honey, breathe for me.
Neighbor Paul Owens began doing CPR on 3-year-old Brittany.
I just started feeling for a pulse. I couldn't find a pulse.
Come on, honey.
I tried to hear her see if she was breathing, and she wasn't.
Please.
Within 5 minutes, paramedic Brenda Daly and her partners arrived on the scene.
What happened? They found her in the snow.
When I picked her up, nothing moved on this child. This child was frozen, literally frozen stiff.
Come on, give him some room, come on.
You know, when you take a piece of frozen meat out of the freezer, when I put my mouth on hers, that's exactly what it felt like. Everything that was going through my mind right then was, please God, this is a kid, this is Christmas Eve, don't do this to me. I don't know if I can handle this.
I see the vocal cords were in.
We placed hot packs in her groin area, in her armpits.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Watching the emergency squad people work on her was a real scary thought, because I wasn't sure she was going to make it at all.
Okay, Doc, what do we got?
Brenda called into the Morgantown Medical Command Center, where Dr. John Prescott was on duty.
There's an old adage in emergency medicine that no one is dead until they're warm and dead. If you approach the normal body temperature and your body doesn't respond, their heart doesn't respond, then it's appropriate to consider the patient dead. Not knowing how cold the child was, we began with the standard advanced cardiac life support protocol designed to give the child some medications down the endotracheal tube.
Brittany was rushed to Davis Memorial Hospital, where Dr. John Veach took over her care.
When Brittany came in, she was in fact chronically dead. She was pulseless and had no spontaneous respiration. We found, in fact, that she was profoundly hypothermic at 74 degrees. We continued CPR, and it was our hope that this hypothermia had protected her vital organs, and that as we warmed her, we would get a response. And no pulse, still flatline.
Okay, we're doing everything that we can for her. The doctors and the nurses kept coming in like every 25 minutes, telling us still no change, but her temperature was coming up.
This is a great exercise for toning your arms.
Close my eyes, every time I close my eyes,
Keep
I
it up.
see the baby.
This is a great exercise for toning your
We're
arms.
sticking a tube into the
That's it.
stomach and
Your
giving warm
triceps getting
fluids to
toned.
help reheat
Great.
from the
Keep it
core.
up.
1, 2,
This exercise is
1,
popular
2,
because it helps
3.
tone
When
your
core body
upper arms.
temperature had risen
That's
to
it.
80
Feel your
degrees,
triceps getting
we
toned.
saw some electrical activity
This
on the
exercise is
monitor.
popular because it
He
helps
was
tone
like,
your upper
well,
arms.
she's getting warm, something's happening here.
That's it. Feel your triceps getting toned.
When
This
the
exercise
temperature
is
risen another
popular
degree
because
or
it
two,
helps
we
tone your
detected
upper
a
arms.
faint pulse, and
This
she
is a
began
great
having
exercise
some
for toning your
respiratory
arms.
efforts of her own.
This exercise is popular because it helps tone your upper arms.
Right before they took her out to the ambulance, they let me see her again. I was in hysterics when I looked at her. They're trying to tell me what they've done to her. And I wasn't really listening, I was just looking at my baby. Yeah, I said, would it be alright if Brittany has a doll with her? And they said yes.
Down.
They had her eyes taped shut, the tubes in her throat. The only thing you could see was her nose sticking out.
Down. Up. Down.
Still unconscious, with a weak pulse, Brittany was
This is a
taken by
great
ambulance to
exercise
the
for
airport
toning your
to be
arms.
flown the 60 miles to
Keep your back
Children's
straight
Hospital in
to reduce
Pittsburgh.
stress on your
Her
lower back.
parents could not go with her.
Great.
Going
Keep
down
it
the
up.
ambulance, she became very restless.
This This exercise is popular because it
When
helps
you have a
tone your
patient
upper
who is
arms.
severely hypothermic, you need to be
Great,
very
keep it
careful not
up.
to disturb them too
That's
much.
it.
If
Feel
they
your
have
triceps getting toned.
a slow
This
cardiac rhythm,
exercise is
you could
popular
change
because it
that
helps
very
tone
quickly
your
to a
upper
bad
arms.
rhythm.
Great, keep it up.
As long
Make
as we
sure
had
to keep your elbows
conversation with
steady.
her and we're paying attention to her, she
Keep your
would
back
still.
straight to reduce stress on your lower back. This is a great exercise for toning your arms. Make sure to keep your elbows steady.
And she would not fight her ET tube
Focus on
as long as we would
straightening your
sing
arm.
the little children's Christmas tunes to her. We were very euphoric. It was like a bonding was taking place between all three of us
Way
and
to
this
go.
child who
Once
3
you get
hours
used to
before
using
had
the
no
wheel
signs
remote,
of
try
life.
increasing the weight. A
But
good
it is
starting
just like
point
giving
could be a bottle
birth.
of water.
She is bonded with us. It's kind of like she's part of us. She's a part of me.
At Children's Hospital, Brittany continued her remarkable recovery. 12 days after Christmas, she was released.
Hold the wheel remote in your right hand. Remember to wear the wrist strap.
Letting her enjoy having
Press the A
Christmas
button
that she
when
had
you're
missed
ready.
while she had been in the hospital. That was the best time for me. Like everyone said, it was a real Christmas miracle.
Down.
Brittany has had some difficulty with
Down.
motor function with the muscles in her lower extremities and
Down.
her left upper extremity. So that seems to be improving day by
Down.
day. She's doing quite well in physical therapy.
Keep your back straight to reduce
Look
stress on
forward
your
to
lower
further
back.
recovery.
That's it.
She's
Feel your triceps
determined to
getting toned.
walk and to get her hands
Make sure
back
to keep
because
your elbows
the baby
steady.
coming. She wants to take
Keep your
care
back
of it.
straight to reduce
Though she has
stress on
several
your lower
months
back.
of physical therapy ahead of
This
her,
exercise is
Brittany
popular because it helps
sustained
tone
her
your upper
chronic
arms.
injuries.
She was reading the Care Bear book.
3-year-old.
I love the
Keep your back
Care
straight
And
Bears.
then we're gonna
reduce
take
stress on your
special
lower
locks
back.
on the door to where she can't get out.
Great. Keep it up.
Everybody did a good job.
Keep your back straight to reduce stress on your lower back.
I like the way they work with
That's
the
it.
care
Feel your
they take.
triceps getting toned. Great. Keep it up.
This child survived
This
3 hours
exercise
of
is
CPR
popular
being
because it
down in
helps
the
tone
cold
your
for
upper
God knows
arms.
how long. I feel that to survive all this and overcome this, she has a purpose. She has a very special purpose.
Hold the wheel remote in your left hand. Remember to wear the wrist strap. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Up. Make sure to keep your elbows steady. This exercise is popular because it helps tone your upper arms. Keep your back straight to reduce stress on your lower back. Great, keep it up. That's it. Feel your triceps getting toned. Great, keep it up. Make sure to keep your elbows steady. Keep your back straight to reduce stress on your lower back. Bend your arms steadily. Great, keep it up. That's it. Feel your triceps getting toned. This exercise is popular because it helps tone your upper arms. Focus on straightening your arm.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you'll hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
Often the best source of hope in a crisis is people committed to doing whatever it takes to try and save a life. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of danger, heroism, and faith on Rescue 911.
July 11th, 1988, Bedford, Indiana, 8 p.m.
Video 54, proprietor Troy Salee was leaving and locking the front door.
Any chance Mr. Running video?
He convinced Troy to open the door and allow them to come in to rent videos.
But they're not there to rent videos.
Three of the men accompanied Troy inside.
And we're going over
They're actually robbing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Once inside the store, one of the men told him that this is a robbery.
And the key. All that registered. Hurry up. Let's go. Come on. Get in here. Trans behind your back. Toot your head back. Toot your head back.
Oh, this is that stabbing episode.
Yeah.
At 8:15 p.m.
They used to have video stores like Blockbuster to rent
Blockbuster went out of
DVDs and
business a long
tapes.
time ago.
I know, but that's what put Blockbuster out of business because Netflix, you know,
Coming from somebody you know.
people
But first
streaming
priority, of course,
videos at
your job.
home, you know, different way to do it.
I assured
So
him that officers were going to be on the way. Told him not to hang up, and at that time I put it on the ambulance service.
Dispatcher Brian Turpin put out a call over the police radio.
They were actually saying that they weren't going to rent video, but they were not.
no.
They came to rob it.
This is actually Rescue 911, video stabbing and sinking snowmobile.
So did Troy. I tried to call back.
Snowmobile
Nobody answered.
breaks
So I locked him in
within
on
the ice.
911, so all he had to do is pick up.
Justice Network, True Crime Network. This was on from 7:30 a.m. this morning
The
till
shift
8
commander on
a.m.
duty that night was Police Officer Ken Bell.
As we entered the parking area, Mike Ragsdale, my senior patrolman, went to the front of the store, and we cruised through the lot checking to see if anybody running away that might be involved in this robbery.
Officer Mike Ragsdale headed for the front door.
3133.
I looked around in the building through the door and windows, and I couldn't see anyone.
The door was locked.
You're hyped up, you're trying to get everything you can, and can't get any information, nobody's there.
Okay.
bone drop, so I don't know if he's okay, if he's fell down, if he's passed out, or what's happened. A few seconds later, I saw someone walking out of the back room towards the front of the store.
Everyone that said you're coming out, he's down,
I knew Troy personally, and I thought he was a dead person at that point in time. I think I semi-panicked, and the only way to get into him was to break out the doors on us, and we were not having any success even at that. So at that time, I called and asked them to send a fire unit there.
Officer Ragsdale called me from the front of the store. He advised that he needed assistance. The subject has collapsed on the floor. I stepped over the curb and looked inside, looked like he soaked blood, and wasn't moving at all. He was just motionless. And my adrenaline was really pumping. And I thought time was against us. So I told Mike, just stand back, I'll get us into the store.
That's one way to get into the store, break
Yeah.
the glass.
Break the glass with the car.
He was just laying there lifeless.
City Police, Ken Bell.
I took my hand and put it down to his neck. When I did, I could feel warm blood. I lifted his neck back a little bit, and it looked like his neck had been slit from ear to ear.
Mike?
Ken Bell applied pressure to Troy's neck to try and stop the bleeding.
It's Ken Bell, can you hear me?
I kept looking at him and said, "Can you hear me?" It's Ken Bell, "Can you hear me?" And he opened his eyes. He said, "Ken."
Listen, stay still, all right?
And he looked at me and he said, "Am I going to die?" And I said, no, the ambulance will be here in a few minutes and they're going to take care of it. In my mind, I thought he was going to die. I didn't know how to answer him. I said, "Troy, I need to ask you some questions."
What is that?
He said, "Will you promise me something? Promise me you'll catch these guys that done this to me."
When we continue,
Once I had the information about what had happened, my thoughts were we were dealing with 8 up to 3 days.
I'm paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
When police officers found Troy Salee lying on the floor of his video store, he was bleeding to death from multiple stab wounds suffered during a robbery. Police officer Ken Bell was doing anything he could to try to keep Troy alive until paramedics could get to the scene.
Troy, I'm gonna need your help on it, all right? Can you answer some questions for me?
I said, "We have no witnesses but you. You've got to stay with us. You've got to give me some specific information."
Stay still, okay?
From that point, it seemed like everything was slowed
I
down.
need your help. Can you tell me what happened?
I asked him how many were there. He said there was 4. One of them had a gun, one of them had a knife.
What kind of car was it?
I said, "Can you tell me anything about the car?"
Was it a silver car, you know that year?
I knew it'd be important because it was their escape vehicle, but we had to have a description of the car.
What was it, a 70 Chevy, 78 Chevy, okay, 70 Chevy Malibu? Is there anything, I'm thinking there, all right?
I said, "Can you tell me anything about it that might help us identify it right away?" And Troy said, "Yes, it's got a temporary meter plate in the back window behind the driver." And I was just amazed that this man is laying here with all these stab wounds in him, and he can sit there and give me this information.
The MTs are here now, here comes the ambulance.
one of the first paramedics on the scene was Sherry Hansen.
He had multiple stab wounds. After we hit about 20, we stopped counting. We also found a sucking chest wound. It was an indication that he had a puncture into the lining of the lung.
Detective Commander Paul Enders arrived and took over the investigation.
Once I had the information about what had happened and I saw all the blood inside the store, my thoughts were we were dealing with some very ruthless and gruesome men. We needed to get them, and we needed to get them fast.
Ken relayed the information gathered from Troy back to headquarters.
Tucker, this way to Bell.
Got it. At that time, I dispatched it to the other communities, so everybody, north, south, east, and west, get the communication.
Request you to investigate reference armed robbery occurred in this city approximately
20 miles away from Brownstown, Lieutenant Paul Starr was on routine patrol.
I'd been there about 6 or 7 minutes, and a gray Chevrolet with a temporary license plate stopped at a self-service service station.
and see if they can.
I called my dispatch and asked if one of these individuals in his car had on a white or a light blue shirt.
Hold on, I have an emergency call.
Dispatcher Brian Turpin confirmed that one of the suspects was wearing a light-colored shirt.
36-25-3. I believe this is a suspect vehicle. You might give us a backup story this way.
When Troy's parents, Marge and Bob Salee, showed up at the scene, officers would not allow them to enter the store.
I figured they wanted to keep me out of there because there was no life left in him. I was just paralyzed nearly. It was an eerie feeling.
I did not let go of his neck because we thought that possibly he had gotten into the jugular vein. So I requested that dispatch contact the 2 surgeons and have them into ER stat.
36-25-3.
I got where my lights would shine in the back window of the car, and the individual on the left rear had a long dangling earring.
153, would you contact Bedford again?
So I got back with my dispatch, and they confirmed that yes, one of these individuals did have a red t-shirt and a long earring. I stayed with the vehicle, and we were getting close to a government housing project. So at this time, I said, let's give me some help as soon as you can. If they get out of this car and get in this project, we're in for a shootout.
At Bedford Medical Center, Troy's mother finally got to speak to her.
He was worse than I thought he would be. I kept saying to myself, you can't cry. You know, I thought if he sees me crying, he's going to get all excited about this. I just stood there and I said, you're going to make it. And he said, I'll make it. And then he said, I love you guys. And I kind of thought, you suppose that's the last time he'll say that?
They pulled into the project, pulled up to the curb, and the vehicle stopped. The back doors of it opened. By this time, I was out of my patrol car.
In the vehicle. Close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. Close the other door, I'll blow it off.
I was thinking to myself, I hope they don't get out. Of course, if they do, I'm in trouble. We found not only the gun used to hold on Troy, we also found the knife used to cut Troy's throat. In the back seat, we found the billfold stolen from Troy.
Also found in the car was evidence linking 3 of the suspects to the kidnapping and murder of a young woman in Kentucky. All of the men are currently serving long-term sentences at Indiana State Prison.
The apprehension of the suspects was successful not only because of the cooperation of all the police agencies in the area, but also because of the heads-up play of Troy.
Troy Salee not only survived, but has completely recovered.
What kept me going was real intense. And
He's playing softball after he recovered.
I knew the only way
Or
I could get back at
baseball.
him if I stayed alive.
Everybody said, well, you'll have to sell that video store. That kid will never be able to go back in there. And he was chomping the bit to get back in that video store. I think he's fabulous.
I think the paramedics and the policemen did a fantastic job. I don't think there could have been any better. They were there.
They're serving pie
I
at
feel
the
like
barbecue.
the reason he lived.
Or picnic.
For a team to act like that and respond like they did and get me to the hospital and take care of me, I think they deserve a lot of credit. I owe them my life.
Next.
There was a lot of...
Oh, this is that school. snowmobile.
Those people everywhere.
Yeah.
There was no reason to think that
Is it the father and son? Like, probably happened like in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Wonderfest. Although snowfall.
True Crime Network.
9 a.m. Rescue 911.
Although snowfall can be heavy and temperatures often plunge below zero, Canada is a nation that enjoys and celebrates its winter season. On February 1st,
It happened
1990,
in
the small resort
Canada.
town of Huntsville, Ontario, hosted the annual Winter Wonderfest, as it has for more than 20 years.
Winter Wonderfest.
Among those enjoying the snowmobile races in the frozen waters of Lake Vernon that afternoon were Barbara Hearn and her family.
there was a lot of snowmobiles out on the ice. There was people everywhere. There was no reason to think that the ice wasn't safe.
Barbara and her daughter
It
decided
is
to
the
go
father and
leaving her
son.
husband Brian and their 6-year-old son Stephen to watch a few more races.
Brian and Stephen stayed, and the sister and the mom went home.
When it came time to drive the 2 miles home, Brian decided to take a shortcut across the frozen lake.
Bad
Although
idea.
Brian normally did not drive across the lake, he felt safe knowing there were other snowmobilers around.
Snowmobile. That's when the ice broke.
Yeah.
Lanny Payne was just a few hundred feet away at the time of the accident.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw them go through. I couldn't get too close, and I knew I didn't have a rope or anything. I don't think I could have survived too long. It was cold, darn cold. Well, they must have been really afraid. And there's nothing there for him to grab. The ice around him was just breaking away. He had nothing to hold on to. So there was really nothing he could do but try his hardest to hold the sun up.
Ross Sully happened to be on the ice that day, demonstrating his hovercraft, when he spotted the victims.
Ice water is numbing experience. And the thought was in my mind that these people are going to die if we don't execute the rescue very quickly. There's very little time. And once they go below the surface, there's nothing that we're going to be able to do. I saw that the father was struggling with every bit of breath that he had left in him to hold his son above the water. And with the hypothermia, it didn't leave very much time. He was going to go down. They couldn't make very much headway because of the snowmobile suits and soaked up so much water.
Finally, I was able to reach out and grab the small boy.
We then managed to get to the father, but there was little to grab onto. We could see his fingers digging into the rubber on the side of the craft to try and hang on.
All that you're thinking at the time is, I don't really care what happens to me, just keep him alive, keep him alive.
Without the hovercraft, which is able to float across any surface on a cushion of air, rescuers might never have been able to reach Brian and his son in time. Brian and Stephen have not gone snowmobiling since the accident.
We don't like talking about it because it's one of those things.
They're ice skating.
Yeah.
Or figure
The
skating.
best thing that came out of it, that we were all right.
I'm just so grateful to everybody that we can be here to enjoy the smaller things in life. Martha and Lanny were the two people on the scene that did what they had to do, risked their own lives, and what they did was very special, and thank you. Just it isn't enough. I mean, what can you do for somebody that saved your life?
I could have lost them. And I think then you realize how much that you do love them and need them and care for them. And it frightens me to think
The
about
dad
that.
is giving the son a piggyback ride. And they're playing outside in the snow.
I've been in this. Isn't it?
You know, folks have.
Just deleting some diners, drive-ins, and dives episodes.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Guy Fieri.
Where the
It's a sausage.
Alligator Alley.
Dangling skier.
These days.
Alligator Alley.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next. This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911
WFAA Dallas, Texas.
Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
Late in January of 1990, Chris and Kevin Bailey finally got a chance to take their 5 children on the ski trip they'd always dreamed of at a resort near their home in Ogden, Utah.
We've always wanted to learn to ski together as a family. So I took off work and we loaded in the car and all went up to the ski resort.
My husband wasn't able to go the week before, and so I was excited for Daddy to see what his kids could do. You know, he had heard all these fun things and how the children could ski so good and how the boys went off jumps, and it was just an exciting time.
Skiing is a dangerous sport. You hear every day of people getting hurt. But it's so darn much fun, it's hard to not go.
We got our passes and proceeded down to the line. A couple of our children had already gone up. My husband was directly in front of me with my friend Colleen. We got into the lift. The gentleman helped me, and there wasn't anybody on Angela's side. But I thought, well, we've done it before, she'll be fine. And she got in, and her little butt just didn't get in the seat. And I thought
Oh, that's when she slipped.
Yeah.
And the gentleman, I guess he didn't see that she didn't get in the seat. And we just kept going.
I was heading away from the loading area when I heard the screaming.
18-year-old Sean Durant, a ski resort employee, went to see if he could help.
Hold on! Hold on! I immediately turned around and said to the other lift operator I was working with to stop.
I think they're showing a lot of these because these are winter episodes of 911. Like, you know, snowmobile falls in ice, snow girl saved,
It's just the most helpless
dangling
thing. I mean, having your
skier.
daughter hang from your arm and know that you're the one that's going to determine if she's going to be hurt or not.
Hold on to mommy's boat, Ange. Hold on to mommy's boat.
Angie cried for help. I remember her saying one time, Daddy, I'm gonna fall. I tore my heart out, you know. There was nothing I could do. There was absolutely nothing that I could do to help.
I could feel the stitches on the snowsuit ripping. And I could tell that I only had one strap left. I mean, here I had a
She's
child
slipping.
dangling from my arms. I didn't know how much longer I was going to be able to hold on.
I realized that there were stairways on the lift towers. I just kind of put 2 and 2 together. And I just told the other guy I was working with to start the lift until it went up to the tower. I don't think you could see exactly where the chair was at. And by the time he stopped the lift, the chair had come past the tower. I climbed up the stairs. I actually remember seeing 2 steps on the whole stairway. I didn't think of anything. I knew what I was doing. I knew what my intentions were, and nothing else went through my mind.
Kevin could see Sean climbing the tower.
My daughter's life was in the balance. It was somewhat of a comfort to know that there was someone that was physically able to help.
When Sean skipped up Angela, we just kind of hugged and I thanked him. And
Yeah.
I don't think you can have enough love for a person who's risked their life for your life.
I don't know that there's many people that would do what Sean did. I think it's a real act of selfless love, if you will. I think he's a very courageous young man.
I just sat there for a minute going, you know, I can't believe I did this. And I had to take moments to take a long breath and kind of relax after what I'd done. It's an awesome experience.
When we got up at the top of the lift, I don't really remember getting off. I do remember standing with our skis off the chairlift, and I remember crying and hugging my husband.
We all hugged each other, and Chris kind of fell to pieces. I think that's when the realization of what had happened really hit Chris.
My friend, Colleen, looked at me and she said, Christy, settle down. She says, remember, your little girl's watching you. And so we kind of settled down. And I said, Angie, you want to go skiing? And she said, yeah. We talked as we went down the mountain, and she looked at me and she said, Mom, I don't want to get on that chairlift again. And I said, honey, neither do I. So we'll do it together. We'll get on that lift together.
And we had to go in the lift, and my mom said my grandpa fell off of the horse, and he had to get right back on it.
Some people in this life are watchers. They sit and watch. And there's people who are doers. And thank heavens that Sean is a doer.
To save someone's life is probably one of the best experiences you can have, because you have that to fall back on the rest of your life. To know that you did something worthwhile in your lifetime.
Next.
And I mentioned that the legs were out, and I knew that
Dad? For entire orders, it's better to be aware and be safe.
Now why go back to the beginning?
He's off the
Right back.
As you can do, like block, we attack. That's 1-800-61's. Comfortably customize it. Look code below. You'll get your. Want to reconsider your decision. It's better to be aware and be safe. Am I responsible enough to carry a firearm? Will I have enough time set aside to practice with my carry firearm? Am I prepared to use it if presented with a threat? If you answer no to any of those questions, you may want to reconsider your decision. It's better to be aware and be safe.
On Monday, April 16, 1990, 18-year-old Tisha Walker and her mother, Frances Hubbard, left the Indian reservation where they lived and headed out across the desolate swamplands of Florida.
Alligator Alley is a two-lane road that connects east and the west coast.
Ski lift accident, delivery with complications.
The nearest hospital.
This is the Alligator Alley episode. Alligator Alley, dangling skier.
Stretch of Alligator Alley, and if you don't stop at one of those, then you have a problem. You're in a lot of trouble.
For both Frances and her daughter Tisha, the Miccosukee Service Plaza was the nearest place to go for gas and food. Because they had no phone at home, any emergency meant a 16-mile trip to the plaza, where their cousin, Janice Osceola, was a cashier.
When Frances first came in, she was, visibly upset. She, was almost in tears.
Jim, get out there.
I just stopped what I was doing and went to the phone and dialed 911. That's the only thing I knew to do, right away.
The call came in at 2:11 p.m.
We need police, fire, paramedics. And what city is that, Edith? What city are Smith Road and Alligator Alley?
With the medical helicopter in use elsewhere, ground rescue units were immediately dispatched, but it would take them at least 34 minutes to reach the scene.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Kid Park, up the gentleman.
Okay, remain on the line for paramedics, okay? He's gonna talk to you.
as soon as you pull the plug, it's basically anybody's guess how long it's gonna last.
Still on? Did you hear me? Yeah, hold on the rescue, okay?
The call was transferred to a paramedic specially trained to handle medical emergencies, Craig Cusinelli.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the girl. They said she had a miscarriage. How old is she? She's about 19, 20 years old.
Our computer set up for caller aid has basic information as far as what to do to sustain a life until the paramedics do get there.
Is she bleeding very heavy? It's already out. The baby is already out. It's already coming out. All right. Now, how old is that fetus? How many months was she taking? How many months? 9 months. Oh, we have a baby there, right?
But when I found out it wasn't a miscarriage, it was natural delivery, then I knew that we were playing with two different scenarios here. We had to take care of both the mother and the baby now.
Yeah, we've got a baby. It's dead. Yeah, it looks dead. It looks dead? Yeah. Stuck in there. Stuck in there. And it looks like the umbilical.
Thanks for using Locast. We're a nonprofit and need your help to keep operating. Especially now, during the coronavirus crisis, Americans need access to local broadcast stations. Please contribute $5 a month. Thank you.
Okay, we gotta get that umbilical cord away from that baby. It's unwrapped. Okay. I'm trying to pull it up as easy as I can. Okay. Try and push this up. Push this up.
When Kathy Banks, a home health nurse, stopped at the station for a drink, she heard about the situation.
If you're having a miscarriage, you lose a lot of blood, so I just wanted to make sure that the mother was not going into shock. I have never delivered a baby in my life. I felt terror, frustration, scared to death. I wanted to run, but I turned around to see, is there anyone behind me? No one was there, and I just thought, well, I have to deliver this baby.
I really was scared. We had no way of getting back if we got disconnected.
The baby is not all the way out.
Now, meconium, which is the baby's first bowel movement, was all over the place, so I knew that baby was in dire need of being delivered. It's a sticky substance, and if you inhale that, that sticks to your air passages, and it's hard to get air into the lungs that way.
Get that kid breathing. Turn her upside down. Get her head down. Feet up. Tap on the feet. Let's see if we can get some.
The nurse had mentioned to me that there was no pulse, no respirations, and it appeared to be a stillborn.
The meconium was all over, it was in the mouth, in the nose. So I had to suck the meconium out with my mouth.
We had to get oxygen into the baby's system. And the only way of doing that would be by somebody giving mouth to mouth and nose on the infant.
Is the chest rising when she's doing that? Okay, hold on, I'll tell you. What's the baby position? Yeah. And after the chest.
On a newborn baby, CPR can do some damage. However, we had to keep trying.
Have her take her index finger and middle finger over the child's left nipple, but don't press too hard. Feel for about 5 seconds. Then after she feels it,
The baby had no motion, no movement. It was just like holding a rag doll with no life in it.
the pressure rate she's going to need to do around 100, between 100 and 120.
I was very concerned. maybe it just wasn't time for this mother and for this baby.
When we continue.
Over the radio, it didn't sound very good. Of all the bad things that can happen during a delivery, every one of them happened to this baby.
Some days are so hot, you feel like you're going to freeze. What? Approval machine.
We need somebody here real quick. I know, we're the only problem is you're so far.
Rescue units were still miles away. Paramedic Lisa Tassett was worried.
Over the radio, it didn't sound very good. The baby sounded like it was going to be very sick. Of all the bad things that can happen during a delivery, every one of them happened to this baby.
Go back over the left nipple and check for that pulse. Check over the left nipple. If you can see starting to have a pulse. Got a pulse. Very good, very good. We're looking fine. Everybody's doing a good job there. And she's not as small as she was, but she's taking very slow respirations. You need to know what the pulse is, only because the fact it might not be high enough for the particular baby. The baby has to be between 100 and 100. Baby's pulse is not that high. Okay.
Janice Cohen had once worked in the newborn care unit.
Now Rescue 911, next Rescue 911.
We're going to continue the 1 pump and 5 pumps.
It was so small and it wasn't moving and it didn't do the normal things that babies do when they deliver. Seeing the baby like that made me want to do something, anything that I could do that would make it respond, that would wake it up.
1 pump with 5 compressions. Yes. Oh, what's going on? Starting to hear some noise. Is it the baby? Yeah. Okay.
All of a sudden, the baby decided to take a breath of air. And when it did, I felt a little bit more relieved. I knew we weren't out of the woods yet.
It looks like a full-term baby to me. No, it doesn't? How's the respiration looking? I don't hear the baby crying anymore. I was just wondering. She's just kind of, hold on a second.
I thought it was important for her to hold the baby and to touch her and be able to see her and feel her in the event that she didn't live. And she would be able to look back on that and remember that and remember her.
It seemed like hours, but actually it was probably around 45 minutes before the helicopters and the ambulance crew got there. It's a miracle that they was alive.
This is what 911 is all about. People helping other people. And it just fell in place. And I wouldn't have asked for a better team. They did perfect out there as far as I was concerned.
Right before we got there, caller advised us that the baby was breathing, the baby had a pulse of 160, and the baby was crying, which was very good. I basically cleaned her up a little more, gave her oxygen, I checked her heart out with EKG, I took her vital signs again. Everything was normal for a newborn baby.
The baby, still in guarded condition, was airlifted to the hospital. Her mother, Tisha, was stable enough to be transported by ambulance.
The baby would get to the hospital in about 5 or 6 minutes compared to ground transport was 35 minutes.
for those people out there, she wouldn't be alive. She means a lot to me.
Baby Tricia has suffered no ill effects from her unusual birth.
I love this baby a whole bunch. More than anything in this world. I'm grateful for the nurse and the people that come out and save my grandchild.
They're giving the baby Tricia back.
The way you look at life and to realize how fragile life is, and when you hold a life in your hand and you breathe this child back to life, it's an experience I'll never forget.
It's 5:40.
Tonight, sir. Roll the door, please.
And within a thought, first responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
Next.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
Sometimes a minor mishap can turn an otherwise safe situation into a life-or-death emergency. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of bravery and teamwork on Rescue 911. We begin on July 4th, 1990, as Tom and Gigi Weedon and their two young boys enjoyed a warm summer day at the beach near their home in Mattituck, New York.
We had planned on spending the whole day at the beach. It was very crowded because it was a holiday. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Danny and Chris and some other friends decided to dig a hole. They had come out of the water, so I was not keeping my eagle eye on them. But I was glancing over to see where they were playing.
noticed his 8-year-old Danny was in trouble and alerted their friend Amy.
I said, Amy, look, so I went over there, and we built the air hose so we could breathe, but the sand kept going in the hose. I was telling him, keep digging. Then his legs stopped kicking.
A family friend, Karen Boxall, had gone over to see what the children were up to.
I looked down, and they said we're digging them out. I thought, oh my God, and I started to scream to my sister-in-law and a friend to come over and help me, and they started digging. I tried to pull and realized I could not even budge him.
At first I said to the guy, how low is he doing his head? My first attempt to get him out was unsuccessful. I guess I got to a radio. I said, my guy is dead, my son is dead.
My first reaction was to run and get help, and then I realized I could help myself. I could help Danny.
His mouth was full of sand. He was not breathing. And I went to do CPR, and there was no breath in me to give him. At that point then, I went numb. His face was so blue. I thought he was gone. I really did.
When we continued,
He was just barely breathing. I was scared. I thought this little boy was going to die in front of us. Sydney.
Goodbye for it. Go.com.
Each day. Ladies, here are.
Great quote in under a minute. Then get cooking and back to what you've been missing. Visit goodtogo.com. It's fast, cheap, and easy. Visit goodtogo.com. That's good, the number 2, go.com.
Ladies, here are a few things you should consider. A small, powerful flashlight can be a savior in many spots with low or no light, especially when you're alone. Ever think of how a whistle will attract attention? Attach one to your keychain. It could be a lifesaver. Instead of yelling help when in distress, yell fire. It's a proven fact more people will respond to fire than a plea for help. Be prepared and be safe.
When a sand tunnel that 8-year-old Danny Wheelock was digging caved in, it buried him under hundreds of pounds of sand. By the time the boy was pulled out, he had stopped breathing. A bystander ran to call for help.
Police and fire emergency, Rena.
We have an emergency on 6B Road Beach.
What's the problem?
Some children were burying a child in the sand. Nobody noticed that the child was in blue.
At a nearby barbecue, volunteer advanced EMT Jerry Diffley was paged to respond to the incident.
I called came over as a signal 16, which is an ambulance call. Male youth, unconscious. It's a call always races through your mind. You think about what you're going to come upon. In my mind, I tend to downplay it a little bit. And it becomes emotional.
At the same time, an ambulance was dispatched from the fire station.
I yelled, I can do CPR.
And then I saw his heart beating through his chest. Thank goodness she was there.
I got a first breath in, and I remember sort of announcing that to everybody, that there was an airway, that it was not totally clogged with sand.
This has got to work. I can't lose him. And then he took a breath on his own. I kind of heard a pop in his chest. His breathing was very irregular and very noisy and very labored.
A policeman and another volunteer EMT had already begun emergency procedures when Jerry arrived and took charge of the scene.
When I first got there, we were administering oxygen by forcing air into his lungs. His lung sounds were horrible. You could just hear that there was tons of sand in his lungs. This was an emergency we had never seen before. Most of the area hospitals probably could not handle this. At that point, I realized, and everybody else realized, what a critical patient we had. Now, okay, we had never used a helicopter before. We needed to get the helicopter here as quickly as possible.
Let's go, boys. Please.
He was just barely breathing. I was scared. I thought this little boy was gonna die in front of us. We worked on him as hard, as frantic as we could.
I felt totally helpless. There's no explaining the feeling. How could this happen?
Danny was rushed by ambulance to a nearby school where the helicopter was going to land. His father rode up front.
I was too far away from him. And I needed to be in the back, but I knew that they had got me to the front to keep me away from him.
Let's go. 128 over 78. Somebody count respirations
We
for
didn't have too many more minutes left for this little kid. I guess the thought that went through my mind at that point is, had I made the right decision calling for the helicopter? We thought it was still some minutes away. As soon as we got to the school, we could hear the helicopter coming over the trees. And that was the best thing in the world.
They brought Danny out, and I walked over and I said, please, let me give him a hug and a kiss. And I went over, I hugged him and kissed him. And I think he opened his eyes for me at that point. I said, Danny, it's Mommy. And he looked at me, and then they took him away. They put him in the helicopter, and he was gone.
In those few minutes, he had gotten a lot worse. He had started to go into pulmonary edema. You start drowning in fluid from your lungs. I guess I really felt scared at that point, and helpless. It was just me. Just me and Dan.
30 minutes after Danny was pulled out of the sand, he arrived at University Hospital in Stony Brook. Pediatric specialist Dr. Phil Ubell was in charge of the emergency room that day.
We proceeded to treat him like a drowning.
Sand and fluid in Danny's lungs were cutting off the supply of oxygen. They had to suction it out. Even if he survived, he might have already suffered permanent brain damage.
Very good.
It was real hard to guess how much sand we got out of his lungs, but looked to be about 1 to 2 tablespoons of sand.
Okay, I'm gonna use the Waiter app to order our California Pizza Kitchen.
How precious they are to you. Is he going to be all right? Is he going to be able to do all the things that he loves to do? He turned his head to look at me, and I saw those blue eyes. Oh, it's incredible. Just incredible. I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
Danny was released from the hospital after only 3 days. He has suffered no brain damage, and the damage to his lungs was minimal.
I think my dad is a hero because he pulled me out of the hole, and Karen's a hero because she did CPR, and Christian got help, and Amy got help. It's like really fun because when people help you, it's like you should help them when they're in trouble. If you want to dig, don't dig any tunnels. If it's a really deep hole, just don't dig any tunnels in the hole because what happened to you might happen to me. What happened to me might happen to you.
Recently, Danny and his parents had a chance to thank Jerry Diffley and the team of rescuers who helped save their son's life.
I think they're fantastic. I don't know how many times I can say thank you or give them hugs. I mean, they cared so much. Especially.
Thanks for using Locast.org, the nonprofit that makes local, over-the-air broadcasting available to everyone. Just $5 each month covers the cost of delivering your local broadcast channels. Please help Locast by becoming a member today.
Jared.
I really think it was teamwork. Everybody worked together, and then that's why this miracle took place. It's a great feeling to know that all the hard work and the dedication.
Maybe California Pizza Kitchen isn't on Waiter. It used to be on Waiter.
And I can do it again for another 100 years.
She was bleeding to death.
I know what it's like to have back pain. When I found him this,
Yeah.
I'm going to start you.
With me for a while.
In Redlands. Crime, an all-new podcast from Vault Studio.
In the spring of 1989, 15-year-old Shelley Eaton moved into her grandparents' house in Redlands, California. 6 months later, on October 24th, a simple accident turned their quiet lives into a nightmare.
Pauline and Albert Amabile had given their granddaughter a room of her own.
Shelley and I have always been very close. She's a good girl, but she and her mother had not been getting along. And we just all felt that she would be better living with me for a while.
We loved having her there. She was enjoyed it. But one Tuesday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, me and my wife were sitting there watching television. One minute everything was okay, and the next minute, just sheer terror.
Oh!
The call for help came in at 5:17 p.m.
Fire department, are you there, ambulance? Please come.
Debbie Whitlam took the call.
What's the problem there? My granddaughter has almost cut her arm off. How'd she do that? Was bleeding profusely. How did she do that? I don't know. How old is she? She's 16. She's 16? Okay, what is she doing right now? Where's she at? She's in the kitchen. We have towel wrapped around her. You do have a towel wrapped around it?
She was bleeding to death. The right arm was cut to the bone, and it was cut so severely there was no way you could even hold the arm together.
Okay, ma'am, what you need to do is put a clean towel around it and hold direct pressure on it. Lacerated arm, 801.
From the nearest fire station, paramedic Rick Linsky and his partner responded.
We got the dispatch as a laceration of the arm. We were probably out of the station within 20 seconds.
Are you alone with her? No, my husband.
And she kept telling my husband, Grandpa, I'm going to die. And she knew it. But it was hard.
The people next door came on over, and they came and they got the towels, and they said, hold the towel, you know, wrap around her like a tourniquet. And that still didn't help. The blood was still gushing out. It's unbelievable.
What is happening? What is happening? What is happening there? Oh, I don't know. Oh, God. Lay it down and rip her arm off. Is that her? What? Is that her screaming? Okay. And she's on the floor right now? No, she's on the floor. Okay. What is she doing? Is she conscious still? She's still conscious, but she's covered in blood. Okay. And I know, and it's going to be all right. No, it isn't. The police are there. No, she's not. They're on the way. It's going to be all right. Oh, they are on the way. They're on the way. Where's she at right now? They're here.
We were a little surprised to see people out in the street flagging us down and so forth, and we weren't expecting anything real serious. We were assuming that it was going to be a laceration of the arm versus partial amputation of both arms. She looked extremely pale. There was a lot of bleeding, a lot of blood coming from both arms, and she was losing it quickly. The cuts were severe. It looked like it went at least through half of the arm, right up to the bone. The bone was exposed through the cut. The obvious priority that we had on that scene was to stop the bleeding in both those arms. We took a roll of Kerlix, which is like a gauze, and we took that and put it against the area where the laceration was. Then we took another roll of Kerlix and used that to wrap the one that we had in place. We have what we call a trauma score. Certain information we have to give to the hospital so that they can make a determination on which hospital she goes to and what type of treatment she's gonna require.
Because of the tremendous loss of blood, Shelley was deteriorating rapidly. Without enough fluids, she would go into shock and die.
The biggest fear was losing her, and that was the hardest part. But I knew she was bleeding to death, and I could lose her.
At the nearest trauma center in Loma Linda, Nurse Patrice Forges was warned to prep for Shelley's arrival. Dr. Ed Hackey was on the call.
We had a 15-year-old female coming in, was on a chair and fell through a plate glass window.
The beauty of having these patients picked up by the paramedics is you have a few minutes to hear what the paramedics assessment is on the radio, so you can get everything ready that you're going to need.
Shelley's mother, Lori Eaton, her stepdad, Bill, and her brother, Todd, rushed to the hospital.
When I first heard, I wanted to be there right away, instantly, and do everything I could for her, to protect her, to help her, to save her. It's just a panic. We arrived at the same time as when they took her out of the ambulance, she was just covered from head to toe in blood. I looked at her and she recognized me right away. She says, "Oh, Mom, my arms hurt so bad. They hurt so bad."
Hi, this is Kelly, and I would like to place a to-go order. I would like a kid's pepperoni, sausage, and mushroom pizza, and I want to add black olives to it. And I would also like a kid's pepperoni and cheese pizza.
Because I didn't want to lose her.
We realized from the paramedic information that she lost about a quarter to.
Yes, pepperoni and cheese.
And we felt that she needed.
No black olives on the pepperoni and cheese pizza, but on the sausage,
In her life, if not
on the sausage, mushrooms, pizza, add black olives, please.
She was
And
in our department about a half an hour, and then she was taken
and my
to-
number is 225-405-4594.
And then as soon as we got to the door, they were
So
waiting
call
for her.
me
I took
when
her
the
home.
order's ready to be
One of the
picked
first
up.
surgeons called in was vascular specialist Dr. Lewis Smith.
It would be very likely, in this
4594.
injury, to lose at least a portion of both upper extremities.
While Dr. Smith
Okay.
opened the blood vessels in Shelley's left arm, vascular surgeon Robert Brown.
Okay, it will be what, 30 minutes?
Multiple nerves.
40 minutes? Okay, thanks, bye.
These things together. We found that she had severed both of the main arteries.
I
This
ordered
required
dinner.
reconstruction. We had to take a vein from her leg and use that vein to interpose a section of the artery that was missing.
As soon as they repaired the circulation, orthopedic surgeon Robert Unseld was brought in to try to restore the use of her arms.
The anesthesiologist told me that he'd never seen somebody who had lost that much blood and still be alive.
Dr. Unseld concentrated first on the right arm, which had been nearly cut in half.
She had cut 2 out of the 3 major nerves that go to her arm. And this is probably the hardest.
So after this is over, I'll end the live stream.
You cut it. You can't just glue it back together. You have to try to line up the wires so that.
And we could go to the grocery store
Using
and
advanced
Barnes and
techniques of
Nobles
microsurgery,
too
15-hour
when we leave.
operation was completed.
I am hungry.
The next time I woke up, I was in ICU, and I didn't realize where I was. And when I looked up, all I could see was like 6 bags of blood, and they're all going into my feet. I'm going, and IVs are going into my neck, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what's happened to me? What's happened to me?
Within 3
They're
weeks, Shelley's
fishing.
left arm was almost normal. Doctors expect she'll eventually regain 90% mobility in her right. Until then, she's forced to be left-handed.
But I've learned to button and snap and tie, so I can do everything with my left hand practically, except for right, which I'm still working on.
She's got a cast on her
Since being
arm,
released from the
and they're
hospital,
playing
Shelley
soccer.
has moved back in with her family.
And I'm glad that she's back. 'Cause me and my sister are real close there. I didn't really like it when she was gone.
This has changed all our lives. Shelley and I had argued about boundaries and curfews, but now that this has happened, there is nothing that we can't work out or deal with, or anything else that comes along that we could handle together.
People think they're lucky when they win the lottery. No, I think I'm lucky to have my life.
I'm gonna do a gymnastics live stream. The live stream will be going while we're gone.